The night everything nearly fell apart was quiet in the most dangerous way, the kind of silence that makes your own heartbeat sound like a warning. Rain pressed against the windows of a small, tired house at the edge of the city, and inside, a man sat alone at a kitchen table, staring at a stack of unpaid bills like they were a final verdict on his life. His name was Daniel Carter, and at that moment, it felt as if the world had slowly, patiently pushed him into a corner where hope itself seemed exhausted. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that even broken lives can be rebuilt, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that may be quietly struggling, just like Daniel was that night. Daniel had not always lived this way. There was a time when his hands were steady, his future clear, and his laughter easy. But life does not warn you before it changes its mind. When his wife passed away suddenly, the world did not stop to give him time to grieve. It kept moving, demanding rent, groceries, school fees, and a strength he didn't feel capable of giving. Left alone to raise his young daughter, Emily, Daniel learned what it meant to be strong when strength felt impossible. Every morning, he woke before dawn to prepare breakfast, pack lunches, and straighten a school uniform that still smelled faintly of fabric softener and memories. Every night, he worked late shifts at a warehouse, his back aching, his mind heavy with numbers that never seemed to add up. The house they lived in had once been warm and full of laughter. Now it felt smaller, its walls lined with reminders of a happier past. The wallpaper was peeling near the hallway, the heater rattled instead of warmed, and the fridge hummed louder than it should because it was old and tired, much like Daniel himself. Yet every evening, when Emily ran into his arms with a smile that refused to fade, something inside him softened. That smile became the reason he kept going, even when exhaustion pressed down on him like a weight he couldn't lift. Trouble arrived quietly, the way it always does. First came the warning letters, then the final notice. Daniel read it 3 times, hoping the words would change if he looked hard enough. They didn't. He had 30 days to pay what he didn't have or leave the only home his daughter remembered. Panic crept into his chest, stealing his breath in small, cruel waves. He began taking extra shifts, sleeping less, eating almost nothing. His hands shook from fatigue, and his thoughts blurred together, but still it wasn't enough. One evening, while waiting at a bus stop after a long shift, Daniel found himself talking to a stranger. The man was well-dressed, calm, and unusually attentive, listening as Daniel, drained and unaware, spoke about his life, his daughter, and the impossible pressure he was under. Daniel laughed bitterly at his own situation, making a careless joke about how even a miracle wouldn't fix things now. The stranger listened, nodded, and eventually wished him well before disappearing into the crowd. Daniel never expected to see him again. Days later, when hope felt thinner than ever, a knock came at the door early one morning. Daniel opened it with tired eyes and a guarded heart. Standing there was the same man from the bus stop, only now he looked different somehow, more composed, more certain. What Daniel didn't know yet was that this man was Alexander Moore, the CEO of a company that owned half the warehouses in the city, including the one Daniel worked in. Alexander had not forgotten the conversation at the bus stop. In fact, it had followed him home, echoing in his thoughts like a question he couldn't ignore. Alexander stepped inside the small house, noticing every detail without judgment. He saw the worn furniture, the careful cleanliness, the quiet dignity of a life held together by effort alone. He met Emily, who greeted him politely, unaware that this stranger might change everything. Alexander didn't offer charity or empty promises. Instead, he offered opportunity. He spoke of a position at his company, training included, with hours that allowed Daniel to be present for his daughter. It sounded too good to be true, and Daniel's first instinct was fear. Life had taught him not to trust sudden kindness. Suspense settled into the days that followed as Daniel waited, doubted, and prepared himself for disappointment. He attended interviews with a borrowed suit, his confidence fragile but determined. He studied late into the night, fighting sleep, refusing to let fear win. Every test felt like a final exam for his future. When the call finally came, confirming the job, Daniel sat down on the edge of his bed and cried silently, his shoulders shaking with relief he hadn't allowed himself to feel until that moment. The change didn't happen overnight. There were still bills, still tired mornings, still moments when doubt crept back in. But something had shifted. Daniel began to stand a little straighter. Emily noticed it first, the way her father smiled more, the way laughter slowly returned to their home. The heater was fixed, the fridge replaced. The house, once heavy with silence, filled again with warmth and light. Alexander remained present, not as a savior, but as a reminder of what one moment of listening can do. Daniel worked hard, earning his place, eventually becoming a mentor to others who stood where he once had, lost and overwhelmed. He never forgot what it felt like to sit at that kitchen table, staring at bills and wondering how kindness could possibly find him there. As this story nears its end, take a moment and tell us in the comments what this journey made you feel, because your words may encourage someone who is silently fighting their own battle right now. Years later, on a quiet evening much like the one where it all almost ended, Daniel sat at the same table, now refinished and sturdy, watching Emily study for college. The rain tapped gently against the windows, no longer a threat but a familiar sound. He realized then that life hadn't become perfect. It had become meaningful. It had taught him that resilience is not loud or heroic, but quiet and persistent, built in moments of exhaustion and carried forward by love. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that even in your darkest moments someone might be listening, please like this video, share it, and leave a comment. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive, reaching those who need hope the most. And remember, sometimes a single conversation, a single act of kindness, can change the entire direction of a life.